sure you'll find time though. I'm sure you'll find time. There's always a way to find time. Dude, I gotta tell you guys, holy shit. So I went obviously to my procedure today, and I don't even know where to begin, but it was the craziest experience of my life. like so far. So like I've been stressing and anxious over it for quite some time, and like I ended up going with my best friend out to the office, and we get there and I'm like, oh god, the anxiety's setting in. Oh god. I'm like, apparently, like everyone says, the waiting period before the procedure is the like actual most scary, painful part. Like, it was absolutely agonizing waiting for the procedure to start. But like, so we waited in the waiting area, and they had like this weird fucking like movie theater set up. And I'm like, sure, let's go sit in the medical movie theater, I guess. So then like we go and we sit there, and they were playing Wizard of Oz on the TV, and it was like watching a trip while waiting for a trip. Like, and also discovering how old that movie actually is now. Did you know that movie came out when like color TV was only 11 years old? Isn't that insane? Like, that movie came out, I think when we looked it up, it was like in the 1930s or something insane like that. And color TV became public in like the 1920s, which is crazy to me. And then like watching it again, I was like, dude, the costumes in this movie are creepy and odd. But I guess like obviously they didn't have like computer generated shit yet, so that's, you know, kind of where they were at. But we watched that, and then it ended, and they called me back for my procedure, and I go, like, I follow the nurse into like this private room, and I thought that I was gonna like, you know, do the usual kind of like hospital thing where you get like all dressed up and like hospital gear, like gowns and shit, and I thought like all this stuff was gonna happen, but instead they just kind of were like, how you feeling? And I'm like, well, terrified, obviously. They ended up putting an IV in my arm and then just leaving me alone in this room for what felt like 2 hours, but I'm sure it couldn't have been longer than maybe like 45 minutes. It was definitely so agonizingly long. I have never sat alone in a doctor's office room for so long with so much anxiety. But I sat in this room and I was like, all right, you know, like, at least once this is over, it'll be showtime, right? So then, like, the doctor steps in and he's like, all right, like, the anesthesiologist is ready for you. You ready to step back? And I'm like, he's like, do you have any questions beforehand? And I'm like, not really. The only thing is that I'm anxious and I've never been put to sleep before. And he's like, okay, well, you're gonna have a really great nap. And I'm like, well, I hope so, because I've been awake since 4 a.m. This was at like 10 in the morning. And, they ended up giving me like something, I guess, to settle my nausea, because I was super nauseated from not eating. So they take me back into like the procedure room, and as we're walking to the procedure room, I'm like, the anxiety's exploding, and I start like kind of tearing up, and I tell like the nurse lady, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I get really emotional when I'm anxious, so please, like, forgive me if I start sobbing. And she's like, it's good. You'll be done in 5 minutes. And I'm like, wait, what? 5 minutes? And she, like, grabs, like, this hot blanket, or, like, it's like a towel blanket thing that they give you. She grabs this, like, hot blanket, She hands it to me. We walk into this room and I see like this giant computer setup with like these crazy attachments, and I'm like, oh boy, like it's happening. All right, it's showtime. And so like I lay down on my back on like this bed that they have, and I'm like, just like the anxiety's just boiling in me at this point. So I'm like starting to just like sob. And the nurse is like completely like composed. Like she's completely not even phased. She's like, oh, it's totally fine. In fact, I would be shocked if you weren't crying right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. So like, I'm like, not sobbing, but like I have tears like rolling down my face. And she's like, okay, I want you to just like roll over onto your side and face me. So I do that. And then she's like, okay, so like, how are you feeling? And I'm like in the middle of crying, and I'm like, I guess I'm okay, but I'm anxious. And then she's like, oh, okay. So then the doctor who's gonna perform the anesthesia on me is like, oh, okay, no worries. Like, we'll give you anxiety medicine. So as I'm laying there, they told me they're gonna put the anxiety medicine, and like they did, and they were like, oh yeah, so in about 30 seconds you'll feel it. But I can tell you right now, it was not 30 seconds. It had to have been like 2 seconds, because all of the sudden, they put this thing in my mouth. It was like this weird circle thing. They put this circle thingy in my mouth. And they were like, I want you to bite down on this. And the minute that I bit down on it, the whole room started like being wobbly. And it was not even like an alarming wobbly. It was like a comforting wobbly. Like, it was so weird. I just remember looking across from me, and like all of the doctors were at like this counter, and they were all like prepping stuff. And then one of them asked me what my name and my birthday was. So I told them. And then suddenly, I saw someone staring at me, and I was like, they were like, oh, hey, wake up. And like, I like sat up, and it was a nurse, and she just was like chatting with me as if nothing happened. And it was so weird because it felt like I time traveled. I straight up went from one room to another magically. It was insane. I was like, what the hell? How did I even get here? She's like, oh, we wheeled you here. And I'm like, but wouldn't I have been awake for like moving rooms? Like, how do we even do this? And I was like, did we even actually do the procedure? Because I was expecting to have like an insanely sore throat, or like feel really sick, or like something. And I woke up like I had the best sleep of my life. Literally the best sleep of my life. I was like, I told the nurse, I'm like, can I take some of that home? Like, can you prescribe that to me for at-home use? Thanks. Like, whatever those happy drugs were, I need them. I would like them permanently. Thank you. I would like them, please. And she thought that was the funniest shit. She was like, dude, she literally said to me, she was like, trust me, all of us doctors here want some for home too. And I'm like, dude, it was the greatest thing I've ever had. That was the best time I've ever had at a doctor. Like, it was so good. Oh my god.